Hello, everybody. Welcome to Jag Fantasy. I'm your host, Gianni Zolo, and I'm going to win you your fantasy league. All right, let's start with some news around the league to begin with. Starting off, Julian Edelman just had surgery on his knee, and he's expected to miss some time, according to the Patriots and all the reports that have been out. So that's going to hurt the Patriots a lot. Cam Newton now has less people to throw to. And it looks like we're going to have to start relying on our young running backs, as in Damian Harris. But, it's not looking so hot for the Patriots right about now. And the other two pieces of news that I have are both trades. They're both defensive ends. The first one was the Seahawks acquired Carlos Dunlap in a trade with the Bengals. The Seahawks defense has been struggling a lot. And bringing a veteran in Carlos Dunlap is going to help the pass rush and the run stuff a lot, and they've been struggling with that for, honestly, the past couple of years just because they've had to sustain some injuries and they've had a bunch of young guys, so hopefully Carlos Dunlap can come in and get some work done. The other trade was Everson Griffin was traded to the Detroit Lions for a 6th-round pick. The Cowboys traded Everson Griffin. They're just looking to get rid of some cap space so they can sign more people in the offseason, and Everson Griffin was a big cap hold for them. So, they just shipped him out of town. They're not happy with his production either. All right, now we'll get into your waiver wire pickups. One of the people I'm looking to target this week, especially because Deebo Samuel is out for this week at least. I'm looking at Brandon Ayuk, the rookie wide receiver for the 49ers. I know I've mentioned him in waiver wire pickups in weeks prior, but he's looking to get a lot of targets this week. He's going to be the number one receiver. He's a young guy against a terrible Seahawks defense, especially their secondary, so I think he's going to get a lot of work. And I have two running backs that have found themselves in a starting role for the past 2 weeks here. One of them being JaMycal Hasty for the San Francisco 49ers. Raheem Mostert's hurt. Jeff Wilson just got hurt last game against the Patriots. So now it's JaMycal Hasty who's the main guy, and Tevin Coleman is just coming back from injured reserve. So I don't expect him to do a lot. I think JaMycal Hasty is going to get a lot of carries. And he looked pretty good, and he's playing a Seahawks defense that has been okay against the run. Mostly their secondary has struggled the most. And another guy I'm looking at is Boston Scott. He'll be starting another week back-to-back for Miles Sanders. And I just think going up against the Cowboys this week, the Cowboys' entire defense has been terrible. And Boston Scott played a pretty good game against another not great defense against the Giants, but scored a game-winning touchdown, had a good amount of yards, and I think he's going to do it again. And the final waiver wire pickup I have might be a little funny, but it's tight end Richard Rodgers for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's playing the Cowboys this weekend. Zach Ertz is out, and their other backup tight end Dallas Goedert has been out since week 2, I believe. And Carson Wentz's 3 top guys right now are Travis Fulgham, Greg Ward, and Richard Rodgers. So Richard Rodgers might be able to sneak in a nice touchdown for you this week if you do need a tight end. And I'm predicting about 60, 70 yards, hopefully. They're playing the Cowboys. They can't cover anything. So Richard Rodgers, should do pretty well. All right, now we can get into your start-sit here for this week. I know I talked about him in the waiver wire, but big start this week for me, I think, is Boston Scott against the Cowboys. Kind of already prefaced it, but the Cowboys' defense is terrible. Boston Scott is filling in once again for Miles Sanders. And for the most part, the Eagles really don't have another running back. So Boston Scott should see a lot of work, just as much as he saw last week. So he should be pretty productive. Another start I have this week is Le'Veon Bell going up against his former team, the New York Jets. I'm mainly picking him for the reason that it's the Jets and it's his former team, and I think the Chiefs are going to try to get him at least a touchdown, and I think they're going to feed him. He's going to get maybe 15, 20 carries. At least that's what I see in my eyes. I think they want to see him play well against his former team. And another start I have this week is Travis Fulgham against the Cowboys. Travis Fulgham has looked very good throughout his early and young career. But I believe going up against the Cowboys, they don't have a single corner or a good safety. Travis Fulgham has been playing good against good defenses as well, so I'm thinking this should be a big 20-plus point game for Travis Fulgham. I'm hoping for it because I actually have him on both of my teams. But yeah, and another start I have this week is Brandon Ayuk versus the Seahawks. Talked about him in the waiver wires, but he's finding himself in the number one role this week at the wide receiver position for the San Francisco 49ers. And the Seahawks have been banged up all year in the secondary. They allow the most points to wide receivers in fantasy. You can't not start this kid. And my final start is Jonnu Smith, the tight end for the Tennessee Titans versus the Bengals. The Bengals defense is awful. The Titans are looking hot. Ryan Tannehill's playing some of the best football I've ever seen him play in my life. And yeah, he's going to be easy, in my opinion, this week, top 5 tight end. John. All right, now we can get into your players that you can sit this week. At the top of my list right now is Wayne Gallman versus the Buccaneers. Devontae Freeman got hurt last week, and that, would normally sub in Wayne Gallman right there at the now starting role because Devontae Freeman will no longer be playing, at least for this week. Could be, weeks after as well. But they're playing a good Buccaneers defense. They're young, and I think the best part of their defense still for right now is their defensive line. And Wayne Gallman is just not good at football, and that Giants O-line is also terrible. So that combo against a good Buccaneers defense, I just don't think it's going to go well. Another person to sit I have is Carlos Hyde versus the 49ers. He's filling in for an injured Chris Carson. And I just believe Carlos Hyde isn't going to be able to put up running back 1 or 2 production this week against a decent 49ers defense. I think Russell Wilson is just going to throw the ball all over the yard. And I just don't see Carlos Hyde getting a lot of carries or yards when he does get those carries. And another sit I have this week, another guy that I actually like is Devontae Parker versus the Rams. I think Devontae Parker is very good at football. I think he's, gotten off to a decently slow start this year, and he's playing a good Rams defense. He'll probably be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey, probably for the entire game. And I think Jalen Ramsey is one of the best corners in the league, probably number 2 behind Stephon Gilmore, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't think Devontae Parker is cut out for that yet. If Ramsey doesn't shadow him, which we won't know until game time, I guess Devontae Parker could put up a decent game, but I think you got to sit him this week. All right, and my last 2 sits this week is actually 2 wide receivers. It's Mike Williams versus the Broncos. He's my first one. Mike Williams hasn't been putting up the production that anybody wants him to begin with, and he's going up against the Broncos, who their defense has been hurting a little bit after the loss of Von Miller, and then Chris Harris left in free agency to actually go to the Chargers, but that's beside the point. Justin Herbert hasn't been targeting Mike Williams nearly enough, and he had 1 catch last week, I believe, on 2, maybe 3 targets. And normally, young rookie quarterbacks that go in to Denver and play against that defense, they normally struggle, and it's going to be cold. Not sure how Justin Herbert plays in the elements, in the bad conditions, but we'll see. I just don't think Mike Williams is being targeted enough, and because the elements could play a factor in this game, I think Herbert's going to go to his more reliable guys, or more guys that he trusts, which are Keenan Allen, Jalen Guyton, and Hunter Henry. Those are his 3 go-to guys in my opinion, so I wouldn't start Mike Williams. And my last sit this week is Chase Claypool versus the Ravens. I think the Ravens defense is just too good, and Ben Roethlisberger has too many weapons to spread the ball around to. Chase Claypool could go off Deontay Johnson could go off. Juju could go off. James Washington could go off. There's so many players that have the potential, but I think the Ravens are going to lock in on Chase Claypool just because of the athletic freak that he is. I think they're going to key in on him, and I don't think he's going to have a decent game against the Ravens. I think you should sit him this week.